This happened about 4 years ago, during spring break. It was actually my idea to do something quiet for once. I'd been begging my boyfriend to take a break from everything and just disappear somewhere for a few days. No people, no noise, just us. His younger brother, Hunter, was staying with us at the time, so he ended up coming along too. We found this cabin online. It was deep in the woods, like really deep. That was the whole appeal. And it was cheap. Way cheaper than anything like it should have been. I remember noticing that for a second. Then I ignored it. We got there Friday evening, right around sunset. The place felt cut off, completely isolated. You couldn't even see the road from the porch. At the time, I liked that. It felt private. Now I know better. There was this separate structure off to the side of the property, like a large shed or something. It had a heavy padlock on it. Hunter messed with it for a second and said it looked brand new, like it had just been replaced. My boyfriend brushed it off, said it was probably just storage. We didn't question it. We went inside, made dinner, had a couple drinks on the porch, and went to bed early. It started raining at some point during the night, light at first. The woods got loud. Not in a scary way, at least not immediately, just constant noise. Insects, frogs, leaves shifting. It was almost calming. But right before I fell asleep, I heard something else. Something heavier. Something moving out there. I told myself it was just a deer. I wish it had been. This happened back in 2016, when I was a senior in college. I was part of a sorority, and every spring break the same thing happened. Huge group trips. Frats, sororities, everyone piling into one place for a week of chaos. That year, we went to Acapulco. There were around 40 of us total. It was loud, messy, and honestly exactly what you'd expect. I won't pretend it was wholesome, but it was fun. The main person in this story isn't me, though. It's my friend, Sahil. And if you knew him, you'd understand immediately why. Sahil had this way of turning any situation into something louder, riskier, and way more complicated than it needed to be. I loved him, I really did, but he had zero self-control and absolutely no sense of danger. We were about 3 or 4 days into the trip when a group of us decided to go out to a club. It was packed. Music blasting, lights everywhere, people shoulder to shoulder, the kind of place where you could lose someone in seconds. Everything was fine at first. Then I noticed Sahil doing what he always did, scanning, looking for something, or more accurately, someone. I knew exactly what he was trying to do, and I pulled him aside and told him to drop it. A couple of the others backed me up. We were in a different country. None of us spoke Spanish. The city didn't exactly have the safest reputation. It was a terrible idea. He told me he'd stop, but I knew he wouldn't. We kept an eye on him for a while, but the club was massive. Eventually, we lost track of him. At first, I didn't think much of it. Sahil disappearing into a crowd wasn't unusual, but as the night went on, it started to feel wrong. Texts went unanswered. Calls went straight to voicemail. That's when I started to get uneasy, because Sahil was many things, but he was never careless with his phone. Never. At some point, the mood shifted. It wasn't gradual. One second we were laughing, drinking, dancing, and the next we were all trying to figure out where he was. We searched the club. Nothing. Eventually, we decided to head back to the resort, hoping he'd already made it there. Outside, it was chaos, people everywhere trying to get rides, so a few of us walked down the street to call a driver. It was around 1 a.m., and that's when we saw him. Sahil came stumbling toward us out of the darkness. At first, I felt relief. Then I saw his face, and everything in me just dropped. He looked destroyed. His shirt was torn almost completely off. His face was swollen, bruised. He was limping badly. There was blood on his hands, and not all of it looked like it was his. We rushed him into the car and got back to the resort as fast as we could. The entire ride, we kept asking him what happened. He just kept saying, "I'll explain later," over and over again. But the way he said it didn't sound like he was just shaken. It sounded like he was scared to say it out loud. Once we got him into a room, he finally started talking, and what he told us still doesn't sit right with me. He said he found a guy near the bar, short, quiet, didn't speak much English. There was another man with him who acted as a translator. Sahil told them what he was looking for. The translator understood. But Sahil said something felt off immediately. Not about the dealer, about the translator. He couldn't explain why, just something about the way he was watching him. Then the short guy pulled out a sample, right there. He tried it, and that was it. He said that's the moment his judgment just disappeared, like something in his brain shut off. They told him they couldn't do business inside and asked him to step outside. He knew he shouldn't. He told us he knew, but he went anyway. As soon as they got outside, there was a car waiting. He didn't even fully realize what was happening before they were forcing him into the back seat. That's when the panic hit. Real panic. They started driving, fast, and almost immediately they went through his pockets, took everything, his phone, his wallet, anything valuable. When he resisted, they beat him, badly. He said he could barely think straight. But then something happened, something small, and it's probably the only reason he's still alive. One of the men asked him, why are there so many Americans in the city right now? And Sahil, barely thinking, told them the truth. Spring break. Dozens of students, all staying at the same resort, all together. The car went quiet after that. The two men started talking to each other in Spanish, back and forth, faster, more intense. Then the car stopped. The door opened, and they threw him out. He hit the pavement hard. The car sped off, and he was just alone. Some random road, no idea where he was, no phone, no money, nothing. So he started walking, just picking a direction and hoping it was right. And somehow, it was. That's when he found us, or we found him. We asked him if he wanted to go to the police. We barely even finished the question before all of us knew the answer. No, absolutely not. Officially, it was just a robbery. That's the story we stuck to. That's the story everyone else believed. But there was one thing Sahil told me later, when it was just the two of us, something he didn't say in front of the group. When they were in the car, after he told them about the other students, the translator turned and looked at him and smiled. Then he said in perfect English, "Good, that means we don't need you." And Sahil said that's when he realized they were never just robbing him.
I've been holding on to this for years. This happened during spring break of my junior year. I've graduated since then, so it's been a while, but I still think about it more than I should. Probably because I never really got an explanation, and I don't think I ever will. I've always been a paranoid person, not in an irrational way, just observant. I notice patterns. I question things. I don't like when something doesn't make sense. My ex-boyfriend, Anna, yeah, his name was Anna, used to say I overthink everything. Maybe I do, but in this case, I don't think I was wrong. Anna had a friend named Lena. Lena was the type of girl who always knew where the party was, always connected, always in the loop. So when she came to us with a spring break plan, it wasn't surprising. She said a friend of hers had invited her to this lake house in the Ozarks. Big place, a bunch of people going, sorority and frat mix. Sounded normal. Too normal. There were 4 of us going. Me, Anna, Lena, and Lena's boyfriend Colby. Colby drove. Long trip, but smooth. Everyone was in a good mood. Until we got there. The house was massive. Way bigger than Lena had described. Right on the water, huge wraparound deck, private dock, and way too many cars. Lena had said maybe 15 to 20 people. There were at least 25 cars, maybe more. That was the first thing that didn't sit right with me. The second was the guy at the door. He introduced himself as the host, friendly, smiling, but something about him felt rehearsed, like he had said the same exact lines over and over again. He gave us a rundown of the house rules, normal stuff. Then he brought up something that immediately caught my attention: car keys. He said the roads were dangerous at night, liability reasons, so they were collecting everyone's keys, at the door. Colby didn't even question it. He handed his keys over. The host made a big show of thanking him, then dropped them into a bowl full of other keys. That made me feel slightly better. At least it wasn't just us. We went inside, found our room, and settled in. Then we went downstairs to find everyone else. The main room was packed, at least 30 people, maybe more. Everyone looked like us, college students, party crowd. Normal, except for one thing. Lena didn't recognize a single person. Not one. That should have been enough for us to leave right then, but we didn't. The night went on. Drinks, music, games. Honestly, it was fun. Too fun. Like everything was just a little too perfect. But I kept noticing things. The host didn't drink, didn't party. He just watched, walked around. At one point, I saw him with a clipboard, actually writing things down. Who brings a clipboard to a party? And then there were the groups. At first, it felt like everyone just came in clusters, but the longer I paid attention, the less that made sense. Most people didn't know each other. Not really. They were all in small groups, just like us, but there were about 10 people who acted different, too comfortable, too aware, like they weren't guests. I tried bringing it up to Anna. She brushed it off, said I was overthinking again. Maybe I was, so I let it go. The first night ended without anything happening, but the next morning, that's when things started to shift. I woke up early, went downstairs. The bowl of car keys? Gone. That didn't make sense, but I didn't say anything. I went outside instead, sat alone for a while. That's when I saw a couple from the night before packing up. They said goodbye to a few people and left. I watched their car disappear down the road. I remember that clearly, because later that night, I saw them again. We were sitting around a bonfire, and across the fire, I saw them, same couple, same faces, sitting there like they had never left. I told Anna. She didn't believe me, so I went to check. I remembered their car. I went to the driveway. It wasn't there. When I came back, they were gone. That's when I knew something was wrong. Not weird, not off, wrong. The next morning, I went for a walk. I needed space, needed to prove to myself I wasn't imagining things. About a quarter mile down the road, I found a shed, and parked beside it was their car, hidden, out of sight from the house. That's when the fear really started, because now I knew for sure people weren't leaving, they were pretending to. I didn't tell anyone, not yet, but I couldn't stop thinking about it. Later that day, I found the couple, near the dock. I asked them directly if they had left that morning. They acted confused, like I was insane, but everyone around us went quiet, subtly, like they were listening. That was worse than anything. Anna finally took me seriously after I told her about the car. She admitted she'd noticed weird things too. People repeating the same stories, same details, like scripts. We decided we should leave, but Colby refused, said I was being paranoid. Lena was unsure, but not enough to leave. So we compromised. One more night. That was a mistake. The next morning, everyone was watching me. Not openly, but enough that I felt it. I walked straight up to the host and told him we wanted our keys. We were leaving. He smiled at first, then he didn't. The room went completely quiet. Someone behind me said, "That's not a good idea." I turned. A girl was staring at me. Not angry, not scared, just certain. The host told me to follow him, alone. Anna tried to come with me. He stopped her immediately, aggressively. I followed him anyway, because at that point, I didn't feel like I had a choice. He led me through the house, back hallways, rooms I hadn't seen before, then into a room full of keys, hanging on hooks, organized. He didn't ask which ones were mine. He already knew. He handed them to me and said, "You're making a mistake." I didn't respond. I just walked. When I got back, everything was normal again. Music, laughter, like nothing happened. We left within 10 minutes. No one stopped us. But as we drove away, I looked back and saw them, a line of people standing on the deck, watching us, not moving, not talking, just watching. Lena tried contacting her friend the entire week. No response. When we got back to school, she finally reached her. Her phone had been stolen weeks before the trip. Every message Lena got, every detail about that house, came from someone else, a stranger. And here's the part I've never been able to shake. That room full of keys, there were way more keys than people in that house, and some of them looked old, like they'd been there for a long time. If we had stayed one more night, I don't think we would have been allowed to leave. And the worst part is, I don't think we were ever supposed to.